All right. Hi, everyone. This is Steve Strother with Finding Men's Peace. And today I have Victoria Martin of Be in the Spirit joining me. We're going to discuss how safety plays into men's emotions. And so before I do anything, I just basically will say, for those that don't know, at Finding Men's Peace, I'm a coach for men, and I am here to help men move from a place of frustration and overwhelm to a place of more joy and passion in their lives. And so, really here to help men with all kinds of things, whether it's uh, something in their relationship that they want to improve, something with their careers, whatever it is that might be on your mind, where you're feeling or experiencing frustration. I'm here to help you move from that place of frustration to more joy and peace. From there, I have joining me Victoria Martin with Be in the Spirit. So I'll let Victoria talk a little about what she does there.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation. So I go by Tori Martin, Be in the Spirit. I am a trauma healing facilitator is what I would basically call myself. Found out that the majority of the struggles that we have in our lives is because we have trauma energy that's stuck in our body, and it's preventing us from accessing who and what we truly are. And so it's really my passion to help people clear that out of their bodies. So that really ties well into the subject that we're going to talk today about feeling safe in your body, and especially for men. They may feel a little odd saying, well, I don't exactly feel safe when it comes to emotions and that. And unfortunately, men are not taught to feel safe with their emotions. I mean, that starts when they're very young. You're mostly allowed to have emotions when you're really young, but when you get to be about 3 or 4, things begin to change. You know, girls, it's allowed, and I wouldn't say that it's encouraged, but people don't think twice about a girl having an emotion. But little boys, there's that they begin to get that, little boys don't cry, buck up, be a man, and it just compounds as they get older, and they're taught that having emotions is not safe. And that then begins to affect their lives and their relationships as they grow.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That definitely resonates. That starts happening at a young age, and as men get older, and as you mentioned, it kind of compounds because you're not feeling safe expressing those emotions over years and years and years.
Yeah, we also find those. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
I was going to say that, and then as we get older and we begin, consuming media, and we start seeing TV shows and movies, we find that there is this cultural belief about men's inability to deal with emotions that we see, especially like in sitcoms, where we find that men are on a large level being emasculated for the fact that they cannot process emotions or help others process emotions. And I really feel that makes them feel even less safe. So they've already got this sense of not feeling safe in their body, that when somebody has an emotion, they've been taught that it's dangerous, whether watching the interplay between their parents and watching how dad reacts to mom when mom gets emotional, or if you have a situation where a boy may have been raised by a single mother and she looked to him to be more of an adult and take on her emotions, that becomes threatening to a child. So the minute anybody gets emotional, men's bodies, there's this alarm bell that goes off that men are just not aware of. All they know is that they feel really uncomfortable and whatever is going on needs to stop. And so then they just go by, you know, the methods that they've been taught, which is either to be dismissive, or to distance themselves, or, you know, I mean, they'll even tell other men, oh, you know, just let it go. You know, just, you know, or they try and fix it, which is, you know, the other thing, you know, here, let me fix it so you stop, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is something that I've realized just sometime within the last 6 months. So there's an element of the sacred masculine called holding space, and holding space is, and I know, Tori, you know, but I don't know who might be listening, but that sacred masculine energy is accessible by all, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, just like sacred feminine energy is. But sacred, so holding space, it means to be able to be fully present with someone without expecting anything in return, without trying to fix, as you mentioned, without trying to solve if they're expressing concern, etc. Without passing judgment. And so, yeah, sometime within the last 6 months, while I was kind of studying that concept of holding space, I realized, because I've been married twice, and both ended in divorce, and I, looking at those two relationships specifically, but other relationships too, I realized that, you know, once something got emotional in that holding space experience, where she was expressing something emotionally, I really shut down. And so what you're saying makes a lot of sense. That's basically exactly what was happening. Is I wasn't comfortable with those emotions in myself, because, as you mentioned, I picked up that signal, or that I was more or less taught through experience that emotions were dangerous. So in that space, it felt dangerous. It didn't feel comfortable. I wanted to do anything but go there. And part of it was because I couldn't get to that level of emotion myself, So I wasn't comfortable being around someone who was. And so, yeah, and just one of the reasons I was able to realize that is I've done a lot of work over the last year on getting comfortable with my emotions. And so that, when I realized that, I'm like, yeah, I am ready. I'm comfortable doing that now. But prior to a year ago, prior to 9 months ago, I wasn't. And so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's that. And yeah, I mean, I'll think there was one other thing. I'll think about it as we go on with the conversation, but that was a big one anyway, for sure. A big realization that I had within the last few months that really fits into what you just said.
And I really think it's also difficult in a way for men to come forward and even acknowledge within themselves that's what's going on. Because, you know, there's, once again, there's a belief that's been built that, well, you know, that's just the way guys are.
Yeah.
And we've been kind of fed this narrative that, you know, we just need to accept it, as opposed to digging in and really looking at, well, what is the root cause of this? And what we've learned now with neuroplasticity and the ability to change our habits and the pathways in that our brain takes in response to stimuli that happen to us. I mean, it's amazing the kind of changes that we could make. The only thing though is it's not going to happen overnight. It does take a while to be able to rewire your nervous system and rewire it towards safety, and away from being hyperstimulated. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of what we're seeing with people's responses to this whole COVID situation is because of the isolation and the constant barrage of images and stories that we're seeing all the time, and the fomenting of fear, and that a lot of us are beginning to experience our traumas actually rising up. We no longer have the ability to distract ourselves enough with social situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure it's probably maybe difficult for men right now, because even maybe playing video games or whatever their go-to is to either numb themselves or distract themselves is no longer working.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that with what you're doing right now is so important, because I think that's coming up in everybody in general, but definitely for men, and they don't quite know, what to do with it. And I think in a way, though, that's where we're seeing a lot of this overly aggressive behavior showing up in people. That's a trauma response. That's your nervous system saying, I feel threatened, I feel trapped, and going, and they're in fight or flight, and they don't feel that they can run away, so they're beginning to fight. And and I think learning how to hold space, especially for themselves, is really important for men. And I think it would change the direction that we see the country growing in now, if we could tell men that it's okay to feel what they feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I was married for almost 30 years, and I will say that I was very guilty of not making it safe for my husband to feel his emotion. Mm-hmm. So I do recognize that there is work on both sides of this equation to be done. Brene Brown tells a story of the first time that she had a man approach her at a book signing, asking if she studied Men and Shame. And she said no. And he talked about, that's too bad. He goes, because, we really do carry a lot of shame. And he says, he goes, my wife and my daughters would, just rather see me, fail than fall off my white horse. That the women didn't want to acknowledge that there was the possibility that he was not invincible,
right,
kind of thing. And so that's another piece.
Yeah, right. That's a pretty powerful story in the way that he stated that. Wow. I mean, yeah. That's I would and again, I definitely see that, and yeah. So I think you're right. I mean, I know you're right. That there is room for work on both sides of that equation. And one thing, as far as the things that men can do, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that just came to mind. some of the things men can do to help, especially with what's going on now. And you mentioned that, we really just don't have the that social experience to fall back on as much. That kind of helped us to, in a lot of ways it's really good, because it was distracting us from facing the truth in a lot of ways. Now
Agree.
it's not as much, but it can be very difficult and very challenging and really scary to jump in and start figuring out what it is we can do. And one thing, I've looked into a lot of things related to self-care for men, things men can do to help break some of that stress up. And one of the big things is, actually the most important thing for men, is to have strong friendships with other men, and to nurture those friendships in some ways that are different than what you see men doing a lot together most of the time now. But things like really getting together and talking about deep things, and having actual discussions about what's going on in each other's lives, rather than talking about the latest sports statistics or the latest sports story. And that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but taking it to a new level is really what I am saying there is. And so that's a suggestion I put out there for men specifically, on something they can do. And yeah, maybe we can't, well, in some cases you can probably still get together, but if you can't, at least there's Zoom,
Oh, yeah.
or the phone, or that type of thing. So that's one. And one thing you mentioned was men holding space for themselves. Do you have any, I guess, do you have anything to say related to strategies men could do to basically look at how they could hold space for themselves?
That would be first developing an awareness around that when they are triggered by something and they find themselves, automatically, wanting to go fix, to take a moment and step back and be a little bit of an observer, and have them look inside themselves. So what I'm talking about is something called felt sense. So being able to discern what is going on, what the sensations are that they feel in their body. So is their chest tight? Is there like a burning sensation in their stomach? It can even be things like all of a sudden, their lower back hurts, or, these kind of stress responses can be stuck anywhere in the body. Yeah. And so if men just take a moment and they can slow their breathing down and just check in with themselves and say, okay, what am I feeling in my body right now? And what does that remind me of? Because, trauma responses are just memories that are stuck in the body. And so when we react in that way, if we take long enough to acknowledge what we're experiencing in our body, and just say, okay, this is happening, and not judge it. That's the beginning of holding space, is not judging themselves for what they're experiencing.
Awesome. That's great. Okay. That's great. That's perfect. So a couple of things came up for me there. Actually, one of them was the thing I was trying to remember before, related to sensations that people feel in their body. So I'll talk about it from the first person. Sensations that I feel in my body. So basically the thing that led me to doing to really getting into doing doing work on myself, which eventually led me to doing work on getting comfortable with emotions, was I was having a lot of discomfort in my right shoulder, the back part of my right shoulder, and it wasn't going away. And it probably started from doing yard work, but it wasn't going away like it normally would. So I eventually ended up going to a chiropractor that somebody recommended to me, and a network chiropractor. So not a so a chiropractor that works on the energy of things and isn't it isn't manipulating the spine as much, or at least physically. And so in working with him for a long time, that's when I first started to realize that how much of the discomfort and pain that we feel physically in our body is actually related to emotions. You know, again, that trauma and everything that's built up. And so, yeah, it might have had a physical start, but it wasn't going away, and it wasn't going away for emotional reasons. And so that's one thing. So that was an actual, oh, I feel this. Yeah, there's something wrong. Let me go see what I can have done about it. And then I learned that it was more emotional than it was physical. And that was a new experience for me. And that happened 4 years ago. I'm 52 years old. So it took until I was 48 for me to actually understand that from that specific experience. But another thing, so from that, I started going to retreats and started going to retreats and started reading and that where do you feel it in your where do you feel that sensation in your body thing would come up a lot. And really I for a long time I'm like, I don't know, I don't, you know, I don't feel anything in my body, you know. So I wasn't used to doing that kind of scan of my body to figure out where I'm feeling anything. So for a while, you know, really for a couple of years, that would come up at a retreat or while I'm reading a book, and I'm like, I'd really like, I don't really understand this, or it doesn't feel, I'm not sure I'm connecting to this right, or whatever. So it took some time for me to even to really understand that. I don't know if that, I think that's probably true of a lot of men. We're not really used to thinking about where we're feeling something in our body, you know. I think that points to maybe a whole new discussion, but you know, I mean, it just kind of hit me. It's like, oh wow, this is a discussion we could have. We could have a whole other discussion on this, but what I just realized is, even emotionally, yeah, I was always used to emotions being in my head, you know, that's where they are, and so I'm used to thinking about emotions, not experiencing them in my body. So it took me some time to kind of figure out how to feel emotions or how to feel things in my body, or what those cues are, to let me know where it is I'm feeling something. So that's interesting. That's a whole new topic we can discuss another time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, and if you've been taught that, you know, emotions aren't safe, and I think on some level we understand that the sensation is tied to that that cognitive idea of what feelings are. And oh man, that thought just totally left. But you know, for men though, they are given other pathways to feel sensations in their bodies. So they're taught, go out and play sports, and that provides them with a sense of sensation for their physical body, but it's divorced though from having an emotion.
Yep.
So right. You know, they are given an outlet, kind of thing, which I think why it's a little difficult for them to connect with that, because emotions are more subtle than getting tackled at football. You know, that's an immediate impact, and you know you've been hit. You know, if if something happens and you're feeling disappointed or you're feeling sad, that just kind of like, you know, moves and roils around, and you're like, well, I don't know exactly, what do I do with that? I know what to do if some dude hits me playing football, kind of thing. But what I like to tell people that I work with when we begin working with developing felt sense is, I don't want you to do anything with it. I just want you to acknowledge it. I just want you to say, I feel you, and I acknowledge you, and I accept that you're a part of me. And that's where we begin. You know, I don't want you to do anything about it. Just acknowledge that it's a part of you, and that it's okay to be a part of you. It's, you know, it's something we're built to do.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. All right, we're at basically the 25-minute mark. So anything else you wanted to mention or discuss before we wrap everything up?
I would just tell people that if you're curious, and men especially, if you're curious, there are a lot of resources out there. There's resources like you. There are just, you know, resources to look at on the internet. You know, if you just type in holding space.
Right.
Or you look up people like, you know, Brene Brown, and there's a myriad of resources out there to help men. And I would just really want to say, at least from my perspective, and I know for me personally, guys, I am so on your side. I want to see you healthy. I want to see you thrive. And there are a lot of women out there who we really do. And please don't allow possible feelings of guilt once you do become aware of, you know, maybe, you know, how you've behaved in the past, and that stop you from reaching out and begin doing the work.
Right. Excellent. That's awesome. And so, and people can learn more about you from your Facebook page for Be in the Spirit. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's Tori Martin, Be in the Spirit. They can find it linked through my regular Facebook page of Victoria Martin. I am also on Instagram under Be in the Spirit, but it's just the letter B and then INTHESPIRT. So they can find me on Instagram too.
All right, awesome. And what I'll do, I will put that information in the comments under this video so that everyone can have a direct link to it from the video as well. And yeah, so and for me, again, I'm Steve Strother with Finding Men's Peace, and the URL for my website is peacefulmen.com. I'm going to leave a link in the comments for a free opt-in offer that I have, which is all about things that men can do to reduce the stress in their lives. So I'll go ahead and leave that link in the comments for everyone. And I think we'll go ahead and sign off. So thank you, Victoria. Oh, I meant to mention, Tori is in the Pacific time zone, so I mean, she started this call at 6 a.m. her time, which so I really appreciate you being up this early and being up and alert for a call like this. So thanks a lot, Tori. So, but yes, thanks for joining us, everyone. For those of you who saw it live, and for those that will see it later, Tori and I will probably do something about this, something like this again sometime, because I think we've already come up with another possible topic. Anyway, so yeah. So thanks, Tori. I enjoyed this, and look forward to talking with you more in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Okay. You too.